I want to really welcome Margaret Hollendoner, and she's been a long-term Google leader. She's been there all the way from 2005 and led and shipped products to billions of users across AdWords, YouTube, and commerce. So she's really seen every different facet of Google. And since 2017, she's committed to a space which is health, which is obviously super important for all of us. And since 16 months, she's at Fitbit, and she's leading the behavioral change strategy and products across sleep, stress management, activity, and nutrition. And she's based in Google London, so hopefully in one of the future editions she'll make it over here. Not a terrible long trip, but unfortunate possible this time. And she's going to share her journey about health impact at scale and give insights into the product development process at Fitbit. Please give a warm virtual welcome to Margaret Hollendoner, who's live with us on Zoom.
Hi everyone, and thank you, Philip. As Philip was just saying, this is my first time in Pennsylvania, and I'm excited to be here, but so disappointed not to be there in real life after 48 hours and multiple cancelled flights. But even though I haven't been to Romania yet, I am on my way. I've got another trip scheduled for next month, so hopefully that one goes more smoothly. I have been, as Philip said, a product leader in Europe, in London, for over 15 years. I grew up in London, and I moved back here after 10 years in Silicon Valley, where it was where I first learned to experience tech as a way of tackling really, really complex, ambiguous problems, something that everyone in this room, I'm sure, does every day. And when you're dealing with these really ambiguous, difficult problems, what I learned is that you have a much higher chance of success, similar to as Mark was talking about earlier, if you form a cross-functional partnership, a set of team members that are cross-functional, covering design, engineering, product, research, so many different areas, and you really tackle these product areas and problems by researching, data analysis, iteration, prototyping, brainstorming. It's a continual process that I know you're all familiar with. And that gives you the best chance of success. You won't always succeed, for sure not, when you're tackling some of these difficult problems. But you at least will learn something for your next attempt by doing it this way. You'll learn about how your users are thinking. You'll learn about what works, what doesn't, so that you can tackle this again if you do fail. And hopefully you'll do it in a fun and inspiring way and keep your sanity along the way. So I wanted to share an example of doing that from Google. Which is from a few years ago when I first moved into consumer health, where I've been trying to continue this process as a leader in product in the last 10 years at Google, and since last year at Fitbit too, since we joined forces with Fitbit joining Google last year. So I'm going to start at the beginning. Let me make sure that this works. Sorry. Does that work? Yes. Here I am at my 10-year Google anniversary, which was around the time that I moved out of the B2B products that Philip was describing and into consumer health. But I have been a Fitbit user for actually much longer than that, for almost 10 years. So you can see this little child on my shoulders here now stands taller than my shoulders, just to give you a sense of how long that has been. And these are some of the devices that I've used over the years. And I became, like many people, addicted to my 10,000 steps. So you could see me every night. I'd be walking on the spot in front of the TV, wherever I was, even if I was out at dinner at friends' houses, whatever it took to get to this a large amount of time that you needed to get 10,000 steps. But let me be clear that I am not an exercise enthusiast. I hate exercise. I have struggled my whole life with fitness and weight issues, like many people. And Fitbit 10,000 steps was the first thing that really got me moving. And it turned me into a real believer that tech can help people who need it most get moving, feel better every day. So a few years later, when Google decided to reinvest in consumer health out of Europe, building a big cross-functional team here, I pitched my vision around individuals like me, people who really needed the help the most and who weren't interested in the latest, fanciest gadget necessarily, or displaying their fitness prowess. They really just wanted to feel better every day. And in that process, we didn't know exactly where to start. We committed as a team to, or as a company, to making our users feel healthier. But making users healthier could mean anything. The possibilities are endless. You could build clinicians' tools, you could support doctors, you could use AI for scanning images, all things that are and should and have been going on for a long time. So we started by forming a cross-functional team. I partnered up with design, engineering, research, with internal and external domain experts. And what I heard over and over again from doctors and public health bodies, team members, users, was that there was the single biggest health crisis at the time and ongoing, intersected perfectly with the core competency of what we as tech have been doing for decades. And that is lifestyle, healthy lifestyle and behavior change. So, in fact, you can see here, this blue circle, lifestyle and behaviors is the single biggest contributing factor to poor health. That's more than the environmental factors, access to medical care, your genetics, your social circumstances. And it is a huge problem. So we've got three stats here of many that I'm sure you've read across, your reading and your research. This is that greater than $1 trillion is supposed to be spent on medical costs associated with obesity by 2025. The portion of global deaths due to obesity has doubled in the last 30 years, and they're now estimated to be greater than 1 billion adults worldwide suffering from metabolic syndrome, which is the leading cause of cardiovascular disease, diabetes, stroke, mental health problems, and the list goes on. And so this was the first kind of aha insight for us as a team as we tried to figure out what should we do in consumer health. We didn't really know how we could tackle this ambiguous problem. And what we realized here was that all the money and time and energy spent on drug research and medical diagnostics and tools and so on, all extremely valuable, but we didn't have to jump into a new space that we knew absolutely nothing about and build new skills. This was an area where the strength we had of engaging our users and keeping them and finding useful ways to interact with them over time was something that would apply and be able to have the biggest amount of impact for health using our user-focused design. So the other insight, the second insight we had from talking and doing all this research is that this was not only about increasing our users' lives. So it wasn't only about adding a few years on the y-axis, on the x-axis here at the end of a user's life. It was also about increasing quality of life at every stage through a user's life, upping your life quality on the y-axis here. We now know that healthy lifestyles and behaviors contribute to higher resilience, better sleep, improved mood, all kinds of benefits over time, as well as the health markers. And we really wanted to make sure that we were doing something that our users would feel the value of right now. This is really important because when you think about how users can feel the benefits now in the short term, you're able to create this virtuous cycle that we in the tech industry do with all kinds of user engagement problems where they direct their efforts, see benefit, and continue to build that healthy habit. So there's another great ability to use tech here. So why are users not just doing healthy habits? Most of us know what we're supposed to do, don't we? Well, it's quite a lot and it's very confusing. We've all struggled with behavior change over our lives. Behavior change is hard, or I'm sure many of you have. Don't want to speak for you. I certainly have. And we see this proliferation of services and apps out there that are trying to help you because we know behavior change is such a tricky, hard problem to sustain and keep. But in addition to that, the advice seems to change regularly. What we should eat and how, when we should exercise and how. Is sitting the new smoking, for example? Caffeine will kill you. Oh no, it won't. It will actually make you live longer. There's a lot of confusing information out there. So as we got deeper into our users and what they were experiencing, no surprise, we saw that consumers were confused and overwhelmed. They didn't know which behaviors they should invest their time in that would actually have an impact on their health. At the time, we saw that more than 50% of US adults weren't able to meet the physical activity guidelines, which are the only set of guidelines that are at least clearly understood and recognized, that there's no controversy around what they are, but they still were not able to meet them. And in fact, at the time, only one in hundreds of apps was able to accurately represent those health guidelines. So we wanted to get closer to how our users were experiencing this. What could we do about this problem? Lots of different approaches had been tried. And one of the things we inherited when we reinvested in consumer health was the Google Fit app, which was like Fitbit, was a fitness tracking app, and we had millions of users. So we dove into data analytics, longitudinal research, user interviews, and the like. And we heard from them that even though we saw they opened the app regularly throughout the year, quite often at different points like New Year's when they wanted to engage in their New Year's resolutions and such, they would tend to drop off quickly. They didn't know what types of goals they should set. They didn't know if 10,000 steps was important. It seemed high. What else should they be doing? And importantly, they weren't seeing any benefit when they did try to engage in certain behaviors because they didn't know which things would be linked to how they felt and their actual health. So we committed right then to the challenge of starting with making health guidelines understandable and achievable for all of our users. We decided to start with activity because not only were those guidelines clear and understood, but also our users were used to having activity tracked by tech. So it was an easy entry point for them to be familiar and comfortable with technology tracking it. So what are the activity guidelines? Here they are. Spoiler alert, 10,000 steps is not on there. So what actually is important is making sure your heart rate is higher than normal for this number of minutes in the week, which translates to about 5 30-minute sessions in a week, which is actually a lot easier to achieve than 10,000 steps every day and a lot more impactful on your health. It's 5 30-minute brisk walks. That's what it takes. And the benefits are enormous and well understood and well proven. You can see examples here of reduction in disease, reduction in improvement in mental health, and so on. So should be easy. We just throw these guidelines up there, and of course everybody wants to know them, but wants to do them. But we all know it's a lot harder than that. So why are users not engaging here? Well, actually, when you think about the guidelines, it is a little bit complicated. I was living this every day through my work, and I was still trying to get my 10,000 steps at night because I didn't really know when or how to get my heart rate up. Was it high enough? Was it too high? Did I do it for long enough? Was it going up and down? There's so many different contexts that contribute that users just didn't know where to start. So we decided to, in the next stage, partner with the American Heart Association and World Health Organization because we wanted to make sure that the metrics and tracking and information that we introduced to our users was truly going to have a health impact and be rooted in the science and evidence. And we wanted to bring to life these guidelines, weave them into our users' everyday lifestyles and routines so that they could actually be achievable for everyone, not just the fitness enthusiasts. And from our research, we knew that there were a few things that we had to get right for this to work. First of all, it had to be tangible and actionable. This is why people love their steps. It's very easy for you to picture in your head, I've got to get steps. 1 step equals this. It's going to take me approximately this long to get a lot of steps. People know exactly how to get started. You can get up in your living room and get them straight away. So we were trying to think about what is the equivalent in terms of the actual health guidelines here. And we thought of the concept of time. People understand time, of course, and the time is what's important in terms of how long your heart rate is raised. So we started to anchor around this concept of how much time have you spent with your heart rate raised. The second thing we knew is that variety is really critical when you're talking about behavior change. We know that users need to be able to do a range of things. We know that they need to get credit for the efforts they're putting in, and that's not always going to be a step-based activity. So we wanted to make sure, and time seems to do this, that we could encapsulate all kinds of efforts that our users might put into it. The next one, and the one that proved most difficult for us, was making these new metrics relatable, predictable, and valid. So, as I said, users really understand what a step is, but if we're shifting them to heart points or heart minutes, What we needed them to be able to do is to estimate what they could do. If they go for a walk today and they get 30 heart points, that's great. But if they want to do the same walk tomorrow, they need to expect that they'll get that same amount. And there's so many contextual pieces feeding in here, right? I mean, have you actually got a heart rate monitor on you? What type of activity are you doing? Do we have access to the speed and effort or the number of steps if it's step-based? Users aren't going to think about any of that. They just want to know that they can have a good prediction of what kinds of amounts of heart points they'll get for a certain activity they do. And even more difficult was the fact that all of these well-proven activity guidelines are based on historic logging efforts. People, as you can see in the picture down here, people remembering in their heads, oh, today I did about, one mile of jogging or 30 minutes of cycling or whatever. How do you translate something, a device in your pocket that is tracking you throughout the day with every step you take to a sort of after-the-fact memory of what you did in terms of the science guidelines? So there was a lot of iteration there to make sure that what we were measuring really was meeting the guidelines that people needed to get to see improvement. And then we saw education was playing a much bigger role than we expected. We knew we would need to understand these, our users would need to understand these metrics. We saw quickly that they wanted to know why should they think differently about what they're doing, where do these goals come from, why are they important, what will they do for them. But as we started to test education, we saw that not only were the education and onboarding screens useful in getting them to understand where these metrics came from and why they were important, but they also served to really engage them and motivate them to reach these goals. And so we spent a lot more time than we expected investing in the iterations on the graphics and the words here, which in the end actually helped our users do better with the level of heart points they got to, rather than just helping them with their understanding as was originally intended. But we still had this problem, which was that users, if it starts at all different levels in terms of what they're currently getting. Some users might be getting a lot of exercise, some users are getting very little. And if you're not getting any kinds of exercise today, or you're not getting any heart points, there's often a perception that you have to buy some Lycra outfit and buy a membership to the gym and suddenly start going to the gym every day. No, nobody's going to do that. I mean, I work this science every day of my life, and I still cannot motivate to go to the gym. So we knew we had to help users get started. And where we focus is giving them an overview of the things they're already doing. So seeing the little bits of activity they do throughout the day add up, and celebrating those, inspiring them, trying to insert some nudges and ideas into the moment. Just walk a little bit faster on the walk you're already doing on your commute, these kinds of things. And this really helped our users to understand that they could fit this into their day, and it didn't have to be a huge new outlay like starting to go to the gym. And through that, we could just recommend to them that they started to increase those points over time until they got to the guidelines of 150 in the week. So we iterated a lot. We launched this product. How did it go? Well, we saw first off that the awareness of cardio and this new metric was a clear win. People's awareness went up, and as a result, our users were getting more heart points over time, which was the goal of the product. So that was good news. But we also learned a lot of other things. For example, we saw that users were engaging with the experience on their mobile devices a lot more than on wearables or other surfaces. And that led us down a path of investing more heavily in the abilities of the mobile environment, the camera as a sensor, other things that we can do with mobile phones. We also saw that users were very interested in what happens in the other behaviors outside of activity. So we started to invest in bringing these guidelines and best practices to life for Nest and other parts of the health landscape to help our users there. And we had failures and didn't get everything right either. Turns out that users are not willing to give up this familiar steps thing. I guess I should have guessed that, since I was also not able to give up on it. But we had to actually go back and reintroduce steps over a couple of years later, but alongside the heart points, because the big win was that heart points really did stick. And a couple of years later, Fitbit introduced their own version of heart points. You heard about it from Andrea earlier, active zone minutes. And last year when Fitbit and Google joined forces, I was really excited to see not only this metric come to life there, but also to see that we shared a lot of the same vision, which was that, helping everyone in the world become healthier. Which for me, based in Europe, the most exciting part of that is that we build these global products here within Europe, in Romania, as a big, heavy investment, which is why I wish I was there, among other reasons. And there is so much more that we can do and tackle in this space. There's a million problems, as I mentioned at the beginning. The list is endless. And even on behavior change, we have barely scratched the surface. So most of us fall in this middle group here of the lifestyle and future fit who have pretty low motivation when it comes to making behavior change. We don't have the luxury on the side here of the exercise enthusiasts who really enjoy exercise and so are intrinsically motivated to get moving. And we don't want to get to the other side here where we have a lot of extrinsic support and motivation because we're suffering from a condition and we have a medical team supporting us. But this group in the middle doesn't have either of those motivations. How do we get them moving? And how do we and not just moving, doing all the other nutrition and other lifestyle changes that they need to make? And I don't have the answers, but I do know that we as the tech industry have a lot of advances that can support us here. So first of all, we have a lot of new surfaces where we can reach and engage these users. Here's an example of a pain tracking study that was done on a wearable. And it was first time unprecedented set of data where users in the study consistently logged their pain regularly throughout the day, every day, to get a very valuable data set. Because it was right on their wrist. In the moment when they were feeling the pain, they could log it. And they actually used this data to dig into some of these 1,000-year-old questions, in this case, whether the weather impacts your joint pain and so on. And we have so many more, an ever-growing list of surfaces that we across tech can build for, in your ear, on your wrist, on your phone. We have the AI-driven natural language processing, which can help to engage people in new and interesting ways. So we can really meet our users in the moments that they need it to support them and actually help with this behavioral change elements. And it's not only about reaching our users and engaging with them. This brings with it a lot of sensors in a lot of different environments and places that we haven't seen before. And that can actually go back and inform the science and medicine that we need to live better and healthier lives. So here's some examples. Deborah Estrin at Cornell, almost a decade ago, talking about how your mobile phone has more health insights about you than your entire electronic health record. And that was nearly a decade ago. So imagine how that is looking today, 10 years later. Some examples, there's a phone app that detects a heart attack a week before the medical markers would, using voice samples collected on your phone. We know that that distance traveled from your home, the tone of your voice, the speed and accuracy of typing, the length of your text messages, all of these things can be signals about a decline in health that can help users raise their awareness, can give early warning signs when things are going wrong, and can really inform the interventions in the science. And then if you add wearables into the mix, you have a huge explosion of additional body sensors. Here's an example from only a couple of weeks ago, where they're able to detect pregnancy only a couple of days after intercourse using the temperature and wearable sensors. So, as I said at the beginning, the list really is endless. And I am so excited to be doing this process of iterating, brainstorming, moving through with my colleagues in Romania and with all of you in the European tech industry to build products that have the best chance of success in these products that can really have a positive impact on not only millions, but billions of our users' lives around the world. So thank you very much for your time.
Thank you so much, Margaret. And as Margaret couldn't be here, her colleague, Lavinia, Niago, I think I'm like butchering that, but she's kindly agreed to take on the Q&A here. So you can go to the Q&A stage, and if you want to know more about culture, engineering, or anything else Fitbit, then she's able to answer your questions right after this talk. So please do feel free to go to the Q&A stage. And thank you so much, Margaret, for making it virtually, and hopefully next year in person when flights are more kind to us.
Definitely. I look forward to it.